Tom in, I think he said 6 seconds 3.0. I mean, technically it is the third Camaro. Ty will stage up left side. Tom gets the initial hit off the starting line, but Ty in the turbocharged Mustang already around him, and he will stay in front. So your final will be Time Rock against Jack Stan, Jimmy Tall.
I kind of like the name you guys came up with, the Cleeter Beater. So it is called G Money, but Cleeter Beater sounds pretty good too, because literally we are to the point to where we've got the engine and drivetrain out of here. Andy and Aiden got this out yesterday, so that is out. The question is, do we do modifications to this one to try and get this thing faster, or do we go with a whole new platform and try to be different? I mean, do we go LS like the rest of them? Do we do something different? But you have obviously your 383 small block. Well, we believe a 383 small block. We haven't pulled anything apart yet, and a Power Glide. So that was a good combination as a starting point. The question is, can it get us fast enough to beat those guys? Because with the scaling of the car, Andy, how'd you come in at the scaling? So Andy was way off. I can say that. Aiden,
yeah, I picked between 34 and 3,500, which I know you'd blossomed a little bit over the week we were away.
So he was picturing that I gained a whole lot of weight, that turns real high. So Aiden, I don't know that you had an official guess.
3117.
So yeah, whatever. That's definitely not his guess, because as you'll see here in a minute, that we'll show you the clip of when we scaled the car and everything. That way you know that we didn't change it for anything. So we just got to figure out who was closest to this number to get them out the swag pack. Thanks for all the guesses. We'll see who's the closest to it, but I can tell you the actual weight of the car with me in it, 3116. Andy thought it was going to weigh like 3,600 pounds. I guessed like 3,200 pounds. Aiden probably guessed 3116 because I don't remember what he guessed, but so there we are, 3116, weight of the car with me in it. Know that Michigan Miles is actually, registration opens up for that tomorrow, and that's going to be a great event. I'm actually wearing a Death Week shirt today, which is one of our one-off events, and what's awesome about the one-off events is they're a one-off event and we only do them once. It's all 8th mile racing, no real classes for it. It's more about the journey, and we're covering all of Michigan. Like, we're going to go 1,000 miles in Michigan. We'll also be there for the Woodward Dream Cruise, which is kind of a bucket list item for a lot of people, and we're covering that whole area. But way before that, in June, is when we're racing against Cleetus and Ty and James. So the question is, what modifications are they going to be doing to their car based on the budget they have left? Right now, we have a ton of budget. They started stripping the car out, but they did get engine transmission out of here. There's a pile of stuff back here that they got out of the car, and they haven't scaled any of this stuff yet to know. Obviously, the full exhaust on the car and all this crap came out of the inside of the car. Haven't waited to see how much weight losing the others. Where else can we lose weight on the car to try and get our number even less? Because with safety, we're putting a roll cage in the car. And we weighed some bars yesterday. Oh, FYI, last day for the giveaway. Ends tomorrow for the pace car. They're just going through nut and bolt and stuff and making sure they are replacing the power steering pump because it was dripping. So they're going to get a new power steering pump to get that in there, because we want to make sure it's perfect as possible for whoever the winner is. 20 times entries for the G Money shirt, as well as any remaining sick week merchandise that was left over. That's all 20 times entries. But back to the car over here. And we're not sure how the roll cage is going to turn out, because Andy's starting to work on it, but he works on the metric system, and we have inches over here. So we're not sure if the roll cage is going to fit. Well, it's going to fit because it may be only about this big when it gets in the car. So it'll be a Temu roll cage. But what are some other areas that people that know the third gens and how can we lighten it? What can we do to get the weight down? Obviously, like some Lexan windows. The others, do we spend money versus with the engine or the power plant, do we spend money on that, or do we spend money on lightweight stuff and work on getting it lighter? What do you guys think?
The driver might have to go for a diet first, but
that's worth a couple pounds there. But the others, like, do we concentrate on going lighter, keeping the same power plant, maybe a little more nitrous,
or not
a couple parts in there, or do we concentrate on more power and less lightning?
Just got to weigh up the money side of things, I suppose. Like,
so right now, budget-wise, I believe, like, we got to clarify some stuff on here. I know safety, so like the roll cage, race seats, harnesses, stuff like that, that doesn't apply to the budget. The other stuff is how much budget we have. I know we're at 5,500. I think he added another 2,500, which means we have 4,500 to spend. But the small block that we have, if we sell that, we get that money to go towards something. So if anybody's interested in a badass small block, 383, takes 200 shot of nitrous, got this thing down arguably into the 9s, and at a 3,100 pound car, then we might be willing to sell that to go with a different power plant to put in here to possibly make more power, because I mean, I really think it's going to take 8s to try and win this thing, or have the potential to run in the 8s. But what's our best method for it? I mean, because we can do a new tubular front end for it, we price those out, and I mean, and the question is, if we find one on Marketplace, we find stuff used, how does that count as the budget there? Or do we have to say what the value of the thing was brand new? I mean, there's some questions there that we don't have, but the whole thing is, like, this needs to be the Cleeter beater, because it needs to beat Cleetus, it needs to beat James, and it needs to beat Ty at their own cheating game. We came close, and we bought our car midweek. They had their car at least for a few days before the event to get preps done and different stuff done to it. So there was questionable tactics that happened there. What can we do? Ideas? We definitely need to do something with the rear end, but the question is, do we keep, if it doesn't have too much power, do we go with a heavier rear end that is going to add weight to the car? And that's your question when we're trying to stick within a budget, is like, where's the money best spent, or the most bang for your buck? Like, is it in putting a better rear end, or is it in making our posi work again in the one that we have, and like just figuring that part out? But to fix the rear end that broke during, is that kind of like Garrett's engine, that like he got to put another engine in there, it didn't count for the budget? Well, the rear end was functional when we got it, and then it broke. It did come with a spare. When we bought it, it came with this one, which is the 10-inch that was in there. Now this has 456 gears in it that we probably do not want for quarter-mile racing. Then we'd be in the James territory, that he's just running out of gear by about 800, 900 foot, and then he just rides the rev limiter the rest of the way. So, and I think we were told those are 323 gears in there. We haven't confirmed any of that, but if they are, like, that gear set seemed good for the way we did the nitrous, but if we could do the nitrous right off the launch and get it to hold up, and the engine to hold up, I mean, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
There's a lot of things came into it, because even the exhaust system was like 2-inch. We could have taken that off. So that's got potential. Could throw a bit more money, put some different cylinder heads on that, or, you know, there was 2 other options you were looking at with a Dodge steel, or it's just, you got to weigh up the pricing, I suppose. Like,
yeah, because we're like, do we get a junkyard Gen 3 Hemi and put in here, like, to be different and know that can make power, and then, but do we do it? Do we put a carburetor on top of it, or do we turbocharge it? Nitrous? Like, what's the best way to go for bang for the buck and trying to live in that budget with it? Fuel system wise, I think we'll probably change something there that will stick. We'll get away from the electric / manual. So,
And a spark management deal too. That's what we get.
what's wrong with our $100 HEI?
Well, we got a functional MSD on the dash down there. But
Well, yeah, it had the MSD on the dash. It actually was not wired to anything. So that was installed in the car, so we could actually wire that up. I mean, unless it got unwired because it no longer functioned, but it does have value to it because it's one of the original MSD boxes. So we can, and that's the other, like, can we keep selling stuff? Like whatever we sell, then that money goes back. And if so, then hey, we have some rear hatch glass. We have a slightly cracked windshield that we'd be willing to part with. Full front end. So, yeah, anybody wants to trade a fiberglass front end for a steel front end, we'd be willing to make that trade. So, because that could definitely lighten it up.
Or swap a racking pinion for the drag link setup, maybe.
Oh, there you go. If anybody has one of those awful tubular front ends and they really wish they had a stock front end K-member, then we would be willing to swap K-members with you as well and give you this nice Florida Life K-member with minimal rust on it and trade that for a tubular one just so that you don't have to deal with that tubular one anymore. But we are open to wheeling and dealing on trading parts off of this for other parts that we can put on this to just, because that's legal, I think. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's one of those other question marks. We'd be willing to change the stock steering column for a lightweight steering column. Like, I mean, if you have a bunch of this stuff and you're trying to get your car back to original, because definitely, so FYI, Doug Cook, like, you got one of those, I know you love these Gen 3s, or 3rd gens, but so if you got one that's got some aftermarket parts, you really want to get back to the original OEM type stuff, Doug, we are willing to trade some of these parts on this beautiful OEM masterpiece to get some of that horrible go fast stuff and lightweight stuff off your hands so that you don't have to look at that crap anymore. So,
or any scratch and dent products that are cheap.
Yeah, scratch and dent, yeah. So, but that's where we're at with it, and definitely comment. Tell us some of the stuff and how we can make this thing lighter. And I've never actually owned a 3rd gen. This is my first 3rd gen. So like, that's the surprising on the weight is just crazy, because never would have dreamed it was that light. With everything that's on here, and like we showed you in the other video, all the suspension stuff and stuff that they've done to it that's on here, like that it's that light. But can we make it lighter? And we got to offset, because you said, what did we factor? The roll cage was going to weigh 120 pounds minimum, so 150 pounds. So 150 pounds added for the roll cage, so now we got to get rid of 150 pounds just to stay where we were at. And I mean, maybe that junk back there is 30, 40 pounds. Like, that's maybe being very liberal with the amount it weighs. It probably doesn't even weigh that much. So we got to find some other weight to get rid of, or we have to equal that much in power. I'm not even sure what that math is on how much power it takes per pound, but I do know if somehow we can get 950 horse in here and we can weigh 3,100 pounds, then we can run low 8s. So
it's doable.
Just up the power, and
so
then the weight doesn't matter as much.
the problem is we only have so much budget to add power, so like that's the part. Like there's the fine line between the two.
We've got a couple of bags of jets there, we can jam into that thing over there.
So, well, and I guess that's the other too though, as long as like we put a good engine diaper on it and we get one pass out of each engine, supposedly we're allowed to just keep replacing engines every day and we can just keep swapping it out. So, I mean, as long as it goes for 1,000 foot, then it'll coast to 1320 pretty fast, and we can put 500, 600 jet in there and be good to go. But all right, that's what we got. Give us your stuff, and we're, like I said, getting this stuff to a base point. We got to work on the roll cage, and then it gets pushed in the corner, and we wait till we figure out what we're doing with it. So thanks for watching, guys.